Debate over regarding FETUS trade as human trafficking. Vietnam leads textile and garment export market share in the U.S. And terrorist attacks in Russia's Dagestan.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Hello and welcome to VTV News, broadcast live to you from Hanoi. You're with me, Lina Pham, and here's the top news of the hour. Continuing the 7th session on Monday morning, the National Assembly discussed the plenary session on the draft law on preventing and combating human trafficking amended version.
Agreeing with the review report of the National Assembly Judiciary Committee, some National Assembly deputies suggested that the draft should cover the prevention of human trafficking in border areas.
As stated in Clause 4, Article 5 of the draft law, every year the state allocates a budget for the prevention and combat of human trafficking, prioritizing ethnic groups. However, human trafficking is still a serious situation in border areas, so I propose that this area should be included in the state budget allocation.
It is necessary to add border areas and vulnerable groups to Clause 4 of the draft law, because border areas and places with complicated security and order are places where fraud and human trafficking are easy to commit. Vulnerable and disabled groups are also the targets of human trafficking crimes.
Some deputies suggested that there should be a legal basis to handle the increasing trends of buying and selling fetuses.
The new crime of buying and selling fetuses in the womb is a dangerous act for society, violating social ethics and traditional customs, so it is necessary to supplement criminal prosecution for cases of buying and selling fetuses.
The mother who sells her child is also an act that must be regulated as human trafficking. However, the law has not yet been regulated, so there is no basis for handling it. The law on preventing human trafficking also has no regulations on the above issue.
Some deputies said it is necessary to add regulations prohibiting acts of intentionally reporting, denouncing, accusing, or making false statements about preventing and combating human trafficking, and clarity on regulation exempting criminal liability and administrative sanction for victims forced to commit illegal acts. Consideration was also required for victims of sexual exploitation and forced labor.
Vietnamese Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính arrived at Châu Su Chi International Airport near Dalian City, Liaoning Province, on June the 24th. He is beginning his 4-day working trip to China, where he will also attend the 15th World Economic Forum (WEF) annual meeting of the new champions. This is the second time in a row that the Vietnamese Prime Minister has been invited by the WEF and China to take part in the meeting, showing the WEF and China highly value Vietnam's position, role, and contributions to global economic growth, as well as its development vision for the future economy. During his stay, Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính will speak at WEF sessions, chair a dialogue session with leaders of major WEF corporations, alongside WEF founder and executive chairman Klaus Schwab, and host discussions with innovative businesses. He will also have bilateral meetings with country leaders, international organizations, and WEF businesses. In addition, the Vietnamese Prime Minister will meet with senior Chinese leaders and several large Chinese organizations and economic groups. Prime Minister Phie will attend the annual meeting of the new champions at the 15th World Economic Forum, WEF, which is held from Dalian from June the 24th to the 27th. According to the WEF, amid a global economic fragmentation, supply chain disruptions, and geopolitical tensions, Vietnam is one of the bright spots in the region and globally, contributing to the WEF in establishing trust, cooperation, building initiatives, and international progress.
With achievements in economic development and substantial and effective contributions to bilateral and multilateral cooperation, Vietnam is one of the few countries that has organized national strategic dialogues with the WEF and its members at important events.
Now, it's not only a star in East Asia, but really on a global level, if we look at also growth rates, which are exceeding.
At the WEF annual meeting of the new champions, the Prime Minister will discuss and propose solutions to promote the potential and strengths of the Asia-Pacific region. Demonstrating Vietnam's responsible contribution, he will also emphasize the role of the private sector and public-private partnership in promoting new growth drivers.
After 35 years of establishing relations, cooperation between Vietnam and the WEF has developed in many fields. It has been concretized through a Memorandum of Understanding, with a focus on 6 key areas: innovation in agriculture, green transformation, net zero goals, reducing waste and plastic, transition to renewable energy, digital transformation, and the establishment of the 4th Industrial Revolution Center.
For a country like Vietnam, that is very high on the radar for a lot of the international business leaders who are seeking stable but also very dynamic growth investment opportunities.
The 15th WEF annual meeting of the new champions takes place in the context of many difficulties in the world economy: slow growth recovery and headwinds against globalization. Vietnam's participation in the meeting for the 2nd consecutive year demonstrates the WEF and the international business community's respect for Vietnam's position and its contribution to multilateralism and international solidarity through a global, all-people approach.
The trade balance of goods continued in the black first 6 months of the year with an estimated trade surplus of $8.4 billion, mainly due to the contribution of the foreign invested sector, including crude oil, according to data from the Ministry of Industry and Trade. The total import-export turnover of goods in the first 6 months of the year is estimated at nearly $370 billion, an increase of more than 16% over the same period last year. The basic export markets, notably the US, China, EU, and South Korea, have recovered and achieved high growth. On the other hand, import activities are well controlled. Imported goods mainly supply, production, and business, accounting for over 90% of total import turnover. In the first half of the year, Vietnam surpassed China to lead the market share of garment exports to the U.S. It had the highest growth rate among the world's top 3 largest textile and garment exporting countries. In the U.S. market, Vietnam's textile and garment industry topped the garment export market share, reaching $6 billion and increasing by 4% over 6 months of 2024. Garment enterprises have orders until the end of the 3rd quarter. They are negotiating for the 4th quarter, the peak production season for Christmas and New Year orders. According to the Vietnam Textile and Garment Group leader, the textile and garment picture this year is brighter than last year. However, unit prices are still 20 to 50% lower than in 2019. Vietnamese rice has improved prospects to increase exports to the Philippines after it announced its decision to cut import tax on rice from 35 to 15%. This reduction will last until the end of 2028. With a sharp reduction in tax, Philippines importers will increase purchases of Vietnamese rice, helping Vietnamese rice increase its market share and maintain high prices. Over the years, Vietnam has always been the largest rice exporting partner of the Philippines, accounting for over 80% of the total rice imported into this market. Vietnamese rice is assessed to be of good quality, reasonably priced, and suitable for the tastes and consumption habits of the Filipino people. Farmers' incomes are always unpredictable as agriculture faces great disadvantages due to climate change and high input costs. However, therefore, the Central Highlands provinces are encouraging farmers to apply sustainable organic farming methods to double efficiency, reduce production costs by 30 to 50%, and improve the quality of agricultural products.
Instead of following the trend of expanding coffee acreage and boosting productivity and output to take advantage of high prices, Bana households in this coffee-growing area choose sustainable organic farming methods. They plant shade trees and maintain grass in their coffee plantations. In addition, Phie does not buy growth-stimulating fertilizers, but chooses environmentally friendly organic compost fertilizers.
I compost 7 or 8 ingredients: coffee husks, cow manure, lime, trichoderma, and honey. The quality of my compost is better than the other composts. My group has over 100 households. I also deploy it for others to apply.
Although organic agricultural production is not very productive, quality is always guaranteed, and the price is always stable, thanks to meeting the strict requirements of import markets around the world. Even when agricultural products on the market fall in price, members of this cooperative still maintain production by reducing costs to increase profits.
We utilize agricultural waste and do not use banned substances. Farmers apply water-saving irrigation systems. The solution is to have grass and limit the soil from drying out to make watering more effective.
Faced with high price fluctuations, we recommend that people choose stable production areas, not develop massively, and not take advantage of stimulating fertilizers to chase output, which will not be sustainable.
In the 2023-2030 period, Gia Lai Province implemented a project to develop organic agriculture, supporting farmers in increasing the rate of organic fertilizers used to 15%. This increased the value of products per hectare of organic land by 1.3 to 1.5 times higher than conventional production.
And up next, let's check out the foreign exchange rate. Coming up next, Vietnam boosts energy efficiency to power a green future. And Vietnam-Japan seeks to tap tourism potential. To bolster social security, the Social Policy Bank has recently implemented lending programs as directed by the government. These are designed to help those on low incomes, and policies beneficiaries have access to preferential capital for production and business. The loan deal is expected to create or secure employment for around 5 million people. More in this, on this report from My Son District in Sơn La Province.
Thang's family used to only grow a few longan trees and raise a few pigs and chickens. The income was not enough to cover the family's expenses, so Thang had to work for other families. Having access to job creation loan of $2,000, he invested in growing longan. Currently, his plantation has hundreds of longan trees that are well watered and fertilized, so his income is many times higher than before.
Without any investment capital, my garden can only produce about 3 tons. Now, it produces 6 tons, earning around $3,000.
In the same village as Thang, Tuan's family applied for a loan of $1,100 to raise breeding cows. After 3 years, he paid off the debt and borrowed further $2,000 to plant 200 longan trees and 500 mango trees. 3 years later, each crop has brought in an income of $5,800 to $7,800.
We use this capital for farming and livestock, which greatly helps our family improve their income. Without this capital, we would have to work for someone else to earn income. But now we can work on our land.
The capital contributes to creating jobs. The program has helped demobilized soldiers, unemployed university graduates, and startup projects in particular.
According to Sơn La Provincial Social Policy Bank data, in the first 5 months of the year, loan turnover for job creation, maintenance and expansion program was over $4.3 billion, with over 1,000 customers receiving loans.
With energy demand soaring during summer, Vietnam prioritizes economical and efficient energy use to meet its sustainable development commitments. The government has indicated a key change to energy-efficient vehicles and equipment.
This mechanical and electrical contractor uses 4 German computerized controllers to produce high-tech products that meet domestic and international standards. As a result, the factory saves a significant amount of energy.
Our goal is to provide products from environmentally friendly projects, renewable energy and green standard factories. Our solution can provide high energy efficiency to projects requiring large power consumption.
We provide sustainable development consulting services for Vietnamese businesses, including solutions for digitalization, carbon reduction, and efficient energy.
The Vietnam Energy Efficiency Program for 2019 to 2030 targets 5 to 7% savings in total national energy consumption. By 2030, the country will save $392 million in cumulative consumption. This is a reduction of 34 million tons of carbon emissions and a saving of 6,000 gigawatt-hour per year, equivalent to 2 500-megawatt coal-fired power plants.
With the issue of Politburo Resolution 55 on energy conservation, businesses have paid more attention to the energy sector. They see many opportunities in it.
Several Vietnamese businesses have successfully integrated 4.0 technology into their electric power production. This change shows Vietnam's determination to develop a long-term energy industry for better international integration and shorten the time frame to meet sustainable commitments.
Last week, Tokyo hosted a forum to explore potential tourism cooperation between Vietnam and Japan. Experts, managers, and tourism businesses from both countries attended the event. More to follow.
The forum is a bridge to connect Vietnam and Japanese tourism enterprises and explore new cooperation opportunities. There's ample room to encourage Japanese tourists to visit Vietnam, yet unique tourism products are required to fully tap into its potential.
Many people I know say they want to travel to Vietnam, or those who have traveled to Vietnam say they want to return. With such a response, I believe Japanese tourists are becoming more likely to visit Vietnam.
According to the ambassador, Vietnam impresses tourists with its beautiful scenery, friendly people, and delicious cuisine. Traveling to Vietnam has also become convenient with several direct flights. However, it is necessary to improve infrastructure and public services to attract more international tourists.
I think Vietnam has a great natural environment and a good sales chain. However, the infrastructure, such as traffic, should be upgraded. Japanese tourists are afraid of crossing the streets due to complicated traffic. Public toilets should also be improved.
Due to the current unfavorable yen exchange rate, Japanese tourists are less likely to travel abroad. However, Vietnam has the advantage of lower prices than other markets, such as the US and Europe. As a result, the Vietnamese tourism industry holds great potential to attract more Japanese tourists with appropriate improvements.
After nearly 10 years of voluntarily pursuing 17 criteria with 50 indicators, Gan National Park has officially been recognized by the International Union for Conservation of Nature (IUCN) as a Green List protected area, making it the 72nd location to achieve this distinction.
Gan National Park is a typical tropical forest ecosystem in the southeast region. It is home to the only population of wild Siamese crocodiles and the largest herd of gaur in Vietnam. The park has earned recognition for its planning, management, and effective implementation.
5-year project, and one of the implementing partners is World Wildlife Fund, and they're here today. And so they have set up cameras inside some of the national parks, including here at Cat Tien, which they attracts wildlife to be able to see what kind of biodiversity is here, and that's really important for things like the Green List because you're able to show you have evidence.
In nearly 10 years of pursuing Green List criteria, Gan National Park has evaluated conservation measures, including protecting endangered species and ecosystems. The park's biodiversity monitoring, habitat restoration, and species conservation projects promote habitat restoration, nature protection, and economic development.
We consider this a tool for internal monitoring and evaluation within the park, encompassing all biodiversity activities from now into the future.
What is required is a process sort of continuous improvement. Some of that can be handled entirely by the existing staff, the government. Other areas of improvement will require additional assistance, particularly international assistance, some financial assistance, technical assistance. And the park, I think, is well positioned to attract that assistance.
Vietnam, along with China and South Korea, was one of the first countries in Asia to join the Green List. This title marked a turning point for nature and biodiversity conservation in Vietnam.
The inaugural Hanoi Lotus Festival and a showcase of OCOP products linked to the culture of the northern mountainous provinces will be held from July the 12th to the 16th at Tây Hồ Cultural and Creative Space or Tây Hồ District, Hanoi. The festival will introduce the unique art of lotus making, tea making, and explore the lotus culture embedded in Vietnamese life. There will be 100 OCOP booths showcasing the culture and cuisine of the northern mountainous provinces. Key to the event is the display area introducing lotus products, lotus silk, lotus sweet soup, lotus sticky rice, lotus sausage, dishes, decorative products, handicrafts adjacent to an area to experience lotus products, which will also exhibit some of the many lotus varieties found in Vietnam and Hanoi. Coming up next in our world news, terrorist attacks in Russia's Dagestan. And intense phase of Gaza conflict nearing end, according to Israel Prime Minister. Gunmen opened fire on places of worship in 2 cities in Russia's southernmost Dagestan province on Sunday, killing at least 15 people. Russia's investigative committee said it had opened criminal investigations over the attack. Gunmen opened fire on 2 Orthodox churches and a synagogue and a police post in 2 cities, Makhachkala, Dagestan's largest city, and the coastal city of Derbent. Russian authorities say 5 gunmen have been shot dead. No group have yet claimed responsibility. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Sunday that the intense phase of the fighting against Hamas in the southern Gaza city of Rafah is nearly over. However, it doesn't mean that the conflict is about to end. Israel will continue its operation against Hamas targets. He emphasized that any agreement to secure a ceasefire along the Israel-Lebanon border must meet Israel's terms. Netanyahu stated he would only agree to a deal that would see Hamas removed from the power in the Gaza Strip and the release of about 100 hostages who are still held in Palestinian enclave. 82 copies of Shakespeare's first folio, printed 400 years ago, will now be on public display after years of being available only to scholars. From June the 21st, worldwide enthusiasts can view this collection at the Folger's Shakespeare Library, which is home to the world's largest Shakespeare collection. The library is located in Washington, D.C.
There are believed to be 235 authenticated first folio copies in the world, and the Folger Shakespeare Library is home to more than a third of them. Without these first folios, many of Shakespeare's plays would not have been known to us, including Macbeth, Julius Caesar, and The Taming of the Shrew. These priceless books, once stored in the library's basement and inspected only by academic researchers, are now on display in an exhibition and accessible to the public.
In these exhibits, we wanted to give people a lot of different lenses through which to look at Shakespeare and a lot of different ways to experience Shakespeare, and some of them as actively as we possibly could. So we have a neighborhood here that we call the print shop, where people can set type in ways that people did in a print shop in 1623.
An interactive display has also been set up, where people can create a conversation with another person using lines from Shakespeare.
A lot of the roots of our world today lie in this period. As Heather Wolf, one of our curators, likes to say, this collection is full of a lot of voices. So having these out and more accessible to people, and all the different ways that people can engage in those stories, can connect with what's here, is really exciting and important for our world today.
The Folger Shakespeare Library on Capitol Hill underwent a 4-year renovation starting in January 2020 and reopened its doors on June 20th.
And now let's take a look at the weather forecast. And that's it for this edition of VTV News. Thank you very much for watching. To rewatch our program, you can download VTVgo from App Store or Google Play, or tune in our YouTube channel at youtube.com/VTV4Go. Goodbye for now.